A possible ceasefire in Ukraine is becoming increasingly likely. Russian declarations are being approached by both Kiev and Washington with caution, but significant progress appears to have been made over the past week. After today's video summit, the UK Prime Minister called for more pressure on Moscow and to begin preparations for a possible stabilization mission in Ukraine. Kiev has officially confirmed Ukrainian forces are leaving the Kursk region. Sudzha is in Russian hands. According to Western media, the retreat was not an accident or the result of significant Russian superiority, but a conscious decision by the Ukrainian command in the face of negotiations with Washington. Our teams worked very well at the meeting in Saudi Arabia, and we are in contact with the American side. We Ukrainians are very constructive, and it is important to urge Russia to be constructive in order to end all this Russian manipulation, which can only prolong the war. Despite skepticism in Kiev and a number of Western capitals, Putin is making gestures to convince the world that he is ready for a ceasefire, although he is setting conditions that may be hard for both Ukraine and the United States to accept. The talks are showing progress, however, at least in the eyes of the Americans.
We've had some very good calls today with Russia. And with Ukraine, they've agreed for a ceasefire if we can get it with Russia. And it's not easy. It's a tough one. But I think we're doing it.
American diplomacy is working behind the scenes. It's not clear what's on the table today and what the terms of both sides are. Aside from general issues of occupied territories or military support, the specifics are discussed behind closed doors.
I think there is reason to be cautiously optimistic, but by the same token, we continue to recognize this is a difficult and complex situation. It will not be easy, it will not be simple, but we certainly feel like we're at least some steps closer to ending this war and bringing peace, but it's still a long journey. It's a journey of many steps.
Slip-ups could lead to the failure of negotiations in general. As analysts point out, the main problem today is scale, the war, the losses, the resistance, and the fierceness of the soldiers, all of which on a front more than 3,000 kilometers long will affect the compliance with the ceasefire of both sides. On the other hand, however, it is clear from the actions of both Kiev and London that a possible truce is in play. Ukraine is preparing a team to develop rules for ceasefire compliance. We have already begun to form a national team that will develop appropriate procedures to properly monitor a possible ceasefire.
Good morning, colleagues.
At the same time, at the European level, a so-called coalition of the willing, that is, countries that would send their troops to Ukraine as stabilization missions, is being discussed. Great Britain is leading the building of this group.
Now is the time to engage in discussion on a mechanism to manage and monitor a full ceasefire and agree to serious negotiations towards not just a pause, but a lasting peace, backed by strong security arrangements through our coalition of the willing.
The problem is that these are demands that Moscow firmly rejects by unequivocally excluding Europe from talks on Ukraine's future. This, in turn, is an aspect that Kiev and, with high probability, Washington will not accept. The United States has unequivocally pointed precisely to Europe as guarantors of Ukraine's security.